How lonely sits the city that was once full of people. How like a widow she's become. She that was great amongst the nations. She that was a princess amongst the provinces has become a vassal. She now lives amongst the nations. Her pursuers have overtaken her in the midst of her distress.
Chez Mobutu, le vieux léopard qui a pris la fuite. C'est celui-ci.
The search for belonging really is our hope. When I got to Canada, after the country of Zaire no longer existed, there was a period of time where my body decompressed or de-stressed. That period of time where you process what you've been through and you think about how much worse it could have been. When the relief and the guilt of having survived wears off, it opens a door to loneliness. That space wherein you wrestle with your own identity.
I am Congo. I'm her rainforest, plains, hills, hips, and thighs, all her contours. I'm her landscape escaping her body, leaving her with fresh skeletons to call home, buried underneath a disfigured smile. She's pretty, battered, but her sun sings every morning, reminding her to rise and to rise again. I'm her tongue speaking in many dialects to comfort a child and elevate a nation who've gone hopeless. She thinks in Swahili, speaks Lingala to her brothers in French, but to her grandmother, whose eyes have seen many days, to her she speaks Chiluba. I'm her chest full of treasure, heart made of gold, blood diamond, eyes zinc runs through her veins, copper for bones. She's the color of cobalt. Fingers made from coltan, titaniumly fit. She's richly devastated. Stained by her sorrow, she grieves eternally. She cancels her sky until man, amputate his corruption and admit to his treason. Exterminate his ignorance to save his own salvation. Execute his excuses that make him useless. Maybe then it won't be enough to say I'm just human. See, I am Congo. I'm her people. I'm her music that clocks her body like a ticking time bomb. She dislocates her eyes with her body movement. She's blessed with the symphony running through her veins and orchestra hidden in her lungs, singing melodies to awaken her bones. She takes her stance like two mountains at peace, arches her back to define the boundaries of her countryside as she dances. I'm the violence enraged by silence like a mime, impregnating secrets, miscurrent courage, and giving birth to terror. But I swear, I'm sorry for your loss. The disconnection between good intention lost in translation with the arm that never reached the help. Her vision was blinded by the world vision who envied her natural beauty but told her she was ugly. Meanwhile, trying to steal her heart made of gold. Her beautiful diamond eyes she used to be titaniumly fit. Now you can see her hollow cage and smiling shoulder blade. She must have been abandoned to think. She must have been dyslexic, disrupted, plus corrupted, handcuffed, and maybe busted. Couldn't find justice, so just left us with just us, and just us couldn't fix us. Mind you that we can't keep jumping minds. Tell them to mind their own, keep their fingers in their homes. Don't confuse this tone for weakness, but we can't fix this alone. Somebody told her that joy comes in the morning, but we still at midnight. My mother, she prays to God in her native tongue for her country. Between the spaces of a language barrier that keeps me at a distance with my country, I understand words that ring truth in any language. She asked God to fight for her country as he once did for Israel. See, I am Congo. And as she prays to God to liberate her country, she is praying for her mother's home, a place she once knew, her brothers and sisters' home, her children's birthplace, her husband's home. She chants in a tone of desperation, but with determination. Liberate my country. Liberate my country. See, I am Congo. And somebody once told me that joy comes in the morning. And dawn is quickly approaching.
My name is Ike Kenzo, or Ikeba Kenzo. I am a community organizer and a program manager. I was born in Regina, Saskatchewan, so sometimes I answer that just to throw people off. I was born in Regina, but I grew up for about 8 years of my life. I was in Congo, which was called Zaire at the time. I remember so many good memories. I remember the family connections. It was just a different way of living. There was much more connection, much more community. That's just what we expected.
We had cousins, siblings, family members that coming together, okay? And then we had story times that we used to tell, you know? It's just something that brings us together.
Some of the biggest rainforests in the world exist in Congo. Mining exists in Congo. A lot of our natural resources is why we're exploited. But aside from what people love to take from us, what we bring to the table is food, music, familiarity, that closeness that allows you to bond with each other.
My favorite Congolese dish would probably be pondu and fufu. Even if it doesn't look super appealing because like the Northern American style is very different, but when you eat it, you really see why people like it.
Its essence is beautiful. Though we've been raped, though we've been killed, though we've been pillaged, our essence is still beautiful. We still hold true to the identity of what it means to be Congolese, regardless of which tribe you are from. When you're outside of Congo, you are Congolese, period.
Je suis arrivé en octobre 1995 pour les Belges, 95 je pense pour les Français. En fait, qu'est-ce qui s'est passé? Pourquoi j'ai quitté le Congo? Vous savez qu'en 1989, il y a eu la chute du mur de Berlin. Alors, après sa chute, il y a un mouvement de démocratisation qui a suivi le monde. Le Congo n'a pas été épargné parce qu'en ce moment-là, on était dirigé par le président Mobutu, qui était un dictateur. Alors, il a fait son discours de démocratisation et suite aux événements politiques qui se sont passés dans le pays, ça m'a en fait forcé de partir et de m'exiler au Swaziland.
Moi, Mobutu Sese Seko Kukumbendu Wazabanga.
Je ne suis pas né pour m'accrocher au pouvoir.
Thank you, sir.
Mon cher ami,
I came to Canada in 1998. In 1997, war, maybe 1996, but around that time, war had broken out in Congo, and there seemed to be a period where the war went really quickly, and there was a transition that happened to the new government fairly quick. So the people my dad was working with, some of them assumed that it'd be safe for us to return back to Congo. It was renamed Congo at the time. And my parents had to advocate for themselves really hard for us to try to find somewhere else where the whole family could go with safety.
I remember we came, it was It was still winter. I believe it was in March 1995. It was really cold. So that's all I remember. We hadn't seen our dad in I think it was 4 years after he left Congo. So the next day he took us to McDonald's, which was amazing as a kid. We don't have that in Congo.
Maintenant, en marchant dans les rues, peut-être quelques jours après, ou bien le même jour, nous, on est habitués à appeler les gens avec un sens de respect. Par exemple, celui qui est plus vieux que toi, tu l'appelles grand frère. Celui qui a une position dans une entreprise un peu plus au-dessus de toi, tu l'appelles monsieur. Mais ici, curieusement, tout le monde appelait tout le monde Jean, Lick. Alors, ça m'a pris... Bon, c'était choquant pour moi. D'abord, ça m'a pris un peu de temps pour que je puisse m'habituer.
I'd say there is quite a bit of difference between living in Congo versus Canada. First and foremost, there was no longer butlers, there was no longer maids, there was no longer chauffeurs. There was no more living in the upper class, essentially.
When I went back to Congo at the age of 14, 15, it was really eye-opening for me, just seeing how people here in the West take things for granted compared to how the kids in Congo are just so innocent.
It's as if they don't even notice their struggle themselves because they have so much joy. And the kids would come and just run to you, and I felt sad, but I was like, but look how happy they are.
I had hoped that coming back to Canada would be like coming to my second home, the place of my birth. But I was slowly losing that battle with myself. I could never feel Canadian enough. Yeah, we had a community in Regina. Yeah, there was other Congolese and other Black people, including the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. But most of the time I felt alone, or that it was really only my family that could understand me. That all changed when I moved to the bigger city of Calgary, Alberta. Here, there were way more Black people and way more Congolese people too. It was so cool because we had our own churches, we had an association, and we had events.
La communauté était presque, je vais dire, en mort cérébrale. Ça n'existe pas. Il n'y avait plus de comités, il n'y avait plus d'activités. Alors moi et certains amis, nous avons dit que nous devons ressusciter la communauté. Nous avons écrit la Constitution, nous avons mis des structures en place et organisé les élections. C'est au cours de ces élections que j'ai été élu président de la communauté. Alors, au cours de mon mandat, je vais parler de mon mandat, pas le mandat des autres. Au cours de mon mandat, il y avait, je crois, 5 ou 6 objectifs que nous nous sommes fixés. Nous avons dit qu'il faut recenser tous les Congolais, savoir il y a combien de Congolais à Calgary. Et puis, ouvrir un forum de discussion, c'est-à-dire online, dans Google, à ce moment-là, oui, c'était dans Yahoo. Ouvrir un forum de discussion, un forum d'échange pour tous les Congolais. Et puis, nous sommes dit aussi que nous devons créer un site Internet. Nous avons commencé. Et puis, à la fin, nous avons dit il faut remettre la communauté congolaise dans la grande famille de la francophonie, de l'Alberta. Et puis, à la fin, peut-être organiser, bien sûr, les élections à chaque 4 ans, à chaque 2 ans. Je m'excuse. Bon. Des objectifs, sous ces objectifs, les uns ont été atteints en partie et les autres pleinement.
How is it like to raise children here in Canada? I see it as a great opportunity. If I have to speak from the positive side of it, they have the most ability and they also have the mind to wanting to do better and to involve as well.
For a moment there, even other communities were a bit jealous of what we were doing. They'd ask, how come all you Congolese people know each other? The truth was, Every Congolese person of my generation was my cousin. That's how we grew up. Every time we got together, it'd be a chance to speak French, learn a little Lingala, and other people would want to know what we were saying, even if it was complete nonsense. We'd greet each other sometimes by saying, "Hey, imbécile, pourquoi tu marches comme quelqu'un qu'on vient juste de taper?" And you'd respond with a, "Ah, regarde la tête comme un beignet. T'as brossé les dents?" And somebody else would say, "Hey guys, stop talking about me. I know when you speak French, you're talking about me." And we'd say, hey, no one's here talking about you, except maybe if you smell bad." Those were the good old days.
When I realized I was Black, it would really have to be just as I arrived into this country. I don't know to what extent I really fully realized that I was Black, but it was really from the onset, and just the realization of the difference in cultures, not seeing anyone that looked like me as well.
I think that my earliest memories of like I'm different or I'm Black was, I think it was grade 4 or grade 5. I had a kid, he came up to me and he looked at my skin and he started to rub on my hand, and he looked and he lifted his hand and he looked at his hand and he was confused and I was confused and I was like, what's going on? And I think after a while, just that moment made me look at my skin and look at him and be like, oh, that's what he was looking at.
The first instant that I noticed that I was different was actually in the school playground in Ontario. Essentially, I was being bullied by the Black kids because I was too light, and I was being bullied by the white kids because I was too dark.
When I came to Canada, because I was born in Canada, people asked me, like, what are you? And I'd be confused. I'm like, I am a Canadian like you. Like, I'm in my homeland finally. In the States, I get it. Maybe they could ask me a question, but I was born here.
The first time, like, I kind of got freedom around the age of 13, 14. I went to a grocery store. Well, not a grocery store, a convenience store, sorry. And the clerk was following me around the store. And he would follow me and my brother around. And we got a little bit of change and we were trying to get some candy. And that was the first time I was kind of oblivious to it. And then that was the first time it kind of opened my eyes that it was real.
Growing up in school, like junior high, high school, and just kids putting titles on you that you don't identify as, or you're ghetto just because, you know, the way you talk maybe might be different, but I wouldn't say it's ghetto, but for them, automatically they attach Black with ghetto.
Why do you think, even to this point, there's still so little evidence, content, literature out there about the Black Canadian experience?
I think that one of our challenges in Canada is, rather than sweeping our uncomfortable history under the rug, to pull the rug up and throw it out the door and look at our history and examine it, dramatize it, talk about it. It's actually less painful if you talk about it than if you pretend it's not there.
On one day, coming back from work, I was taking the train at the time, and somebody just called me the N-word out of nowhere. And I was like, oh, okay, well, it's funny because it was somebody that we are both considered minorities.
I wouldn't say that there's racism amongst the Black people themselves. We are struggling with colorism is the issue that presides within the Black community. So you're being judged by the tone of your skin, by the shade of your skin, along with even some of the features you may possess. The reason why colorism is so predominant is not because we came up with it. It was a concept that was brought up through colonization. It was a concept that's been brought up through the Western culture. The lighter, the better.
The great American writer Toni Morrison said, the real function of racism, its actual purpose, is to distract us from our work and our lives. And that's how I feel racism impacts every Black person I know. We all have talents and attributes and lives we're living and people we're loving, and we just want to live on. Young people just have no interest in putting up with some of the nonsense that we went through. Young Black people just want to live. They want to do good. They want to excel. They want to walk freely and not fear.
Listen, you're Black. There's no hiding that. Whether you're 1 drop Black, 2 drop, 50, 100, you're Black, Blackity Black. That's what it is. Rather than pin each other against each other, lift each other up, support each other, talk it through, share your experiences.
Here we are back in each other's arms. Me and my Nefertari setting out on a safari so far we've weathered the worst storms. I'm talking racism in all its forms, from being shackled and shipped to being told to get over it. But in all seriousness, as a couple, it wasn't in the cards for us to make it. Pit one against the other, especially the sexes. Next is necessary, you break the will to resist by making an example out of the most restless. Bullwhip the man within an inch of his life and take his wife and see to it that she submits. See, all of this is according to Willie Lynch and his Making of a Slave explained in 1712. Said to last at least 300 years. Do the math and tell me where we'd be at. It would have been 2012. Well, fortunately we became aware of these nefarious schemes designed to keep you from me, my ebony queen. So on we go, goat in and thinking we're sheepish, but no. We must remember. Chariot rides as the sun rises over the Nile. Trips to Nubia, the pyramids reminding us to stay true to the ancestral wisdom written in hieroglyphs. That only together do we create the Black family. But amidst all the madness of the Middle Passage of them wreaking havoc, then declaring us savage, I saw a side of myself the likes of which made me doubt my purpose. Though in your eyes I was always perfect.
I eventually started going to university, and in about my 3rd year at the University of Calgary, destiny found me. That's the year I met Cheryl Fogel.
My name is Cheryl Fogel. I'm an author, playwright, and filmmaker and historian. I was born in Calgary. I grew up in Bowness in the 50s and 60s. I'm the descendant of the Black Migration of 1910, which is what it's called, when approximately between 1,500 and 2,000 Black people came up to Saskatchewan and Alberta altogether between 1905 and 1912. The bulk of them came in 1910, so we just refer to it as the Black Migration of 1910.
That year, a seminal book called The Book of Negroes by Lawrence Hill came out. There was a reading organized on campus. I went with my sister and my dad. This book meant so much to us and our own identity. It was a book that spoke of the Black Canadians that landed in Nova Scotia before Canada was even called Canada. There was no contradiction with their identity. I needed to hear more. That was a fateful day because it's the day I noticed a girl that was in class with me. Of course, we were taking a race and ethnicity sociology class together. It was a huge class with only a few Black people in it. Ashley and I had a mutual friend. One day, when I was saying hi to my friend, I worked up the courage to also say hi to her. She responded by saying nothing and literally looking straight up at the ceiling. Someone told me that she was Nigerian, and I thought, okay, maybe she just doesn't like Congolese guys. We do have a reputation. So I kept it moving. I saw her again at this event. Not only her, but it felt like I met her whole family. Turns out, she was Cheryl Fogel's niece. And at this event were her grandparents, parents, aunts, uncles, siblings, you name it, they were there. This was the first time I had seen so many actual Black Canadians in one place. I felt a sense of home that day, especially when they described the relationships they had as cousins. Their cousins were their friends, and that was so familiar to me.
My name is Ashley Kenzo now. Used to be Ashley Hayes Barks, and I work for Children's Services. I was born in Calgary, and I've lived in Calgary my whole life. Being a Black Canadian was a lot of different things. Growing up in Calgary, there were hardly any Black people here. And having no one that looked like me at school, no one that looked like me, really barely even in my own family, my extended family. So it was was a challenge, I would say, honestly.
After the event, I talked to Ashley and I asked her, so why you say you're Nigerian when you have this rich history here to draw from? She said, well, no one really knows about that history, and no one really knows about my people either. So it's just so much easier to say I'm Nigerian. I go, huh? No one really knows about my people's struggle either. My name is Ike Kenzo, and one day I will be president of Congo. She said, like Obama? You think you're Barack Obama? I said, if you could be my Michelle.
We shared similar visions of what we wanted for ourselves and for the Black community as a whole. And I think that we, both of us, I think just work with the community just as a Black community. I think that's one thing. If there's one thing that Black people really, we find struggle with is, you know, being unified.
And that stupid, cheesy line worked. We started talking, and I started to feel a sense of home that I really hadn't felt in Canada before. Ashley and I have been together ever since, granted, with more than our share of ups and downs.
With such unfailing faith, I finally found a way to see our seeds are really planted, not buried. And even if we barely escaped, I want to change this sequence of events. Because without this mess, we wouldn't have a message. Your anointed talents will restore balance by taking you from the pit to the palace. So imagine these trials or palettes, used to blend the maroon hue of a bleeding heart with the brown of our skin. And when held in the hands of a master artist, we become paintbrushes. Look, another stroke of his genius and he made us meet again. So I can court you like love and basketball, dribbling the ball, pointing my pen, singing, brown sugar girl, I got a Love Jones for you with your kinky curls. So what do you say we take a blank page and translate our pain into a love language many long to? For as long as the breath of life fills our lungs, it's only right that we speak in a heavenly tongue. Because at a time when your heart was just an envelope I could slip love letters inside, I told you to mark my words with your signature. If in between birth and death is this dash called life, then we should be salt in our season on earth. Though faith was once a ladder, we slipped off of the day the saints came and said, let's pray, only to exchange the land of promise for our Uncle Sam and Thomas. Simon said, if Christ is our crutch, then we can carry our cross. And we have, all the way to the mountaintop. Now how about we build our house on this rock?
Our relationship was really centered around our work and community. So shortly after meeting, we helped to start the African Students Association at the university. I eventually served as president, and Ashley was a secretary. Working with the ASA was foundational for us. We were a group of Black individuals, all from different backgrounds, but we were able to establish a vibrant association and community. We then took part in the Black Gold or Obsidian Awards. And those awards served to bring together the community in completely unexpected ways. We were able to fill out a large theater here in Calgary, and we were able to honor individuals from our community doing serious work. It felt like we were really contributing to all aspects of life here in Calgary. During that time, I also got to see Ashley's fire and talent for community work much more. And this worked for me because she always seemed to have my back. One time, I took a risk and I tried to do something I thought was noble. I was gonna put on an event called Breaking the Silence. It was an international initiative where individuals were planning events in different cities where we were gonna expose what was happening in Eastern Congo.
You have nearly 6 million people that have died. It is the greatest humanitarian crisis since World War II. Why is it not being seen on the news? Why aren't we valuing African life? Why aren't we valuing human life?
We were going to talk about the implications of Uganda and Rwanda. I put on this event, I spoke, but I got in trouble. not everyone agreed with what we were saying, and I almost lost sanctioning for the entire association because I mentioned Rwanda. But who was there to have my back? Ashley was there to remind me that, hey, you belong here just like anybody else. You have the right to speak your truth. Our community at the time was struggling through what felt like a dark moment. Our gatherings were taking place at funeral homes. We had a lot of funerals, and it felt like we were only gathering for those purposes. At one point, we had lost 6 youth in 2 years. It traumatized the community because most of these deaths were preventable.
I am God, and there is no other. I am God, and there is none like me. I make known the end from the beginning, from ancient times to what will soon be seen. I will go before you. I will strengthen you. I will.
Definitely, the preventable deaths that the Congolese community faced is something that I think a lot of us haven't fully processed yet. There was just a bunch of even like unexplainable kind of deaths that were happening. Somebody dying in like a random kind of place in some kind of isolating scenarios. When the call goes out that somebody that you knew is no more, everyone from the community gives. Some people during these times have insurance, other people don't. But for those that don't, really, your community is your insurance. Really, the worst part was that we didn't have a space of our own where we could go grieve. We wanted a space where we can just let our good qualities kind of breathe, have space to kind of shine. One time, I remember seeing a mother who had lost her son have to rent a condo building party room and have to rush through the wake so that another group could use the space after us. Her brokenness and her stoic gaze pierced the room. She politely complied with the rules and she asked us all to leave. I kept it together till I left the building. Soon as I got to the car, I cried tears that I didn't think I had. I felt so small.
create a pathway. You will know that I am God. I am that I am.
The community was also overwhelmed. So, as a leadership team, we decided to try to bring back some of that positivity, some of those good vibes that we felt before.
The creation of SOS Congo was seeing that lack of community organization, especially for the youth. It was really geared towards first about embracing our culture, sharing our stories. We are individuals from different backgrounds within the Congo, with our ultimate goal being to bring our community together and the youth together.
I was approached by a friend of mine. She proposed that I come and meet a few of her friends that are within the Congolese community, and they were thinking of doing something, like something to help our current generation and younger establish a bit of culture for us because we can't live off of the older generation. So I said, sure, why not? We ended up at her house and we were all there. So Ashley, Ike, Ornella, Eddie, and herself, Sifa. And so we were all present, we're all talking, and we were sharing our story essentially, like what it means to be Congolese, how our history brought us to this present day, who our parents are, like who's lived in Congo, who hasn't, who was born there, who hasn't. It's just kind of one of those get to know each other situations. And I can't remember who it was, but they said, why don't we do something about it? Why don't we raise awareness of the Congolese community culture within Western Canada, but more specifically in Calgary?
A lot of us were fresh out of college. We were still trying to find our way. So we wanted to create a platform where for the opportunities we weren't getting in the professional field, we created an organization first for us to be able to work, sharpen our skill set, get experience, and get better. And then we wanted to just provide that same opportunity to youth coming up, to let them know that we're not zeros. There's a place that we can build something and build something that's great.
I was very interested in connecting the gap between Congolese individuals in Canada, specifically Alberta and the Congo. I thought there was a significant gap. The reason I say this is because, I came at the age of 7, but I didn't go back to Congo for quite some time. I think it was like years. And then when I went back to Congo, I just noticed like the difference from how, when you talk to your Congolese friends in Canada and then what you experience in Congo was completely different. So I think that's one of the things that I wanted to bring together. And I think we all kind of had that vision. So that's how we were able to work very well together as the founding members.
So we started off by doing a tutoring mentorship group initially, along with a music drumming leadership group. And our goal was always to find a center of the village, to have a center somewhere. So very, very early on, we started renting little spaces we could use as a community center. Our first little church we rented up in Marta Loop was like an old church they were going to turn into condos, but what they were renting it at, we could afford, so we started renting from there a bit, offering this service to the community, partnering with other groups just to have a place or build something that we can all be proud of.
So our first event was Taste of Congo, and really it was everything I've just said there. So it was really about the embrace of different backgrounds within the Congo, through food, through music, through entertainment, and really an atmosphere where we wanted folks to come and rejoice.
It was very, very well received. And initially, we had this idea, and then we didn't really know how it was going to go. It was very stressful to plan. A little bit of bickering here and there, but that's normal, especially if we're all coming from, we're all different individuals.
If people could be a fly on the wall as to what went down amongst us founders that night, they'd be extremely surprised that we're still together today. When it comes to challenges, we had communication problems. Keep in mind, a lot of organizations, a lot of non-for-profits, they usually have 1 or 2 people that are in that leadership role. We had 6 to start. We had communication issues because this was back in 2014 is when we really started to do things. So we were very young. That's almost 10 years ago. We lacked knowledge and wisdom to be able to start an organization.
our leadership team managed to stay together even during these difficult times. And by 2019, we were in position to plan our second Taste of Congo event, this time with funding. I was now married for 2 years and I had a child. I was gainfully employed and working for an organization called Canada Bridges Social Development. Canada Bridges at the time primarily worked with Indigenous youth. We thought that it'd make for a great event if we brought Black youth and Indigenous youth together. It was a risk, but it was another well-received event. There was story sharing, history, a culture exchange, and many new Canadians got to sample bannock and fry bread for the first time. We received funding for this event from the Calgary Foundation, and the event was featured in the Calgary Foundation's magazine, highlighting 20 years of community impact through grant.
A list so long, it takes dozens of people to carry. The names of more than 4,000 children who never returned home from residential schools.
I've heard it said that in Canada, when addressing social issues, the concerns of the Indigenous community should be addressed first. I don't know the answers to the questions that this statement brings up, but what I do know is that I've learned a lot about how to advocate for myself from the Indigenous community.
I believe your stories, and I believe in reconciliation as part of the healing journey.
Witnessing the truth and reconciliation process that Canada went through, though imperfect, I think can serve as an inspiration to many other communities. We had a small amount of funding and we started to share space. We managed to stay in that space for 2 months before the world completely changed due to the COVID pandemic. During this time, we witnessed even more changes. There was the tragic death of George Floyd.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. In cities across this country, Canadians are making their voices heard in a powerful display of unity against police brutality and systemic racism.
That sad and traumatizing murder that was caught on camera had a particular effect here in Canada, especially in Calgary. Calgary, for a long time, seen as a bastion of conservatism and colorblindness, and not a place where Black issues are centered, had one of the largest Black Lives Matter rallies in the country after that death. That was followed by a discussion at City Hall on the topic of racism here in Calgary.
What is happening in our communities that is right? What are the grassroots organizations here doing that is right to help this situation? Because a lot of times what Black men, or I can speak specifically for Black men, we don't want to come here, we don't want to be beggars. We don't want to feel like we're just talking endlessly about our feelings and then for things to go nowhere. A lot of people feel as this is just something that is an exercise we're going to because there was a death in the United States and we want to be vogue, we want to go with the flow, do something that we can post on Instagram.
As I reflected about my time growing up here in Canada, and as I listened to all the participants at this event, I realized that my experience was not at all unique. Many of us felt the exact same way. Still, I felt I had to say something. I was on no list, I had no appointment, and I'm pretty sure I found out about the event the same day. I decided to speak about the funding or the lack of funding in our communities, and to highlight the fact that the city does have money earmarked for communities, and some of that could have a great impact in us addressing some of the concerns that people were calling in about. That day, destiny found me once more. That's the day I met Dr. Rita Yambila.
I am a researcher, I am an evaluator, and I teach at various universities because teaching is one of my passions.
She happened to listen to my speech, and she decided in that moment that we were going to work together. She found a way to contact me, and she told me that she had developed a suite of resources called the CC4AR, Cultural Capacity Building for Anti-Racism.
The big inspiration to have that thought around CC4AR was the call that the city of Calgary put out for applications to address systemic racism.
She wanted to expose some of these materials to our youth. So we put together a project, applied for a grant, and it was approved. We started doing leadership training. We did a program first called UIP, or Unveiling Youth Potential. This is a leadership program that asks youth to look at their story as a source of inspiration. And we also completed the CC4AR.
I'm so glad we are here for one reason. Cultural capital is about confidence building. Cultural capital is about recognizing all of the innate power that a person has within them. Some of that cultural capital has got to do with social licensing. Social licensing means that everybody sees you, they know what you are able to do, and they give you the permission to do what you are able to do.
We went for about a year. We started with 20 youth, and by the end, 11 graduated. After that, 6 started working with SOS Congo as interns after the completion of the project.
In my personal experience, the program has allowed me to have an opportunity to learn very helpful and insightful information through storytelling and presentation.
I joined as a volunteer. I started doing the marketing and communications team, and then we did the Culture Capital for Anti-Racism training online with all the youth, and we got to meet a lot of different leaders in the African community and outside the African community.
We learned about the anti-racism program that we were brought in as interns, and we were able to go through a stretch of different things and learn different things through a few professors and people that came to help out. And I was just able to learn about the Canadian history and things that you wouldn't normally think about, and how impactful the Black community was to the Canadian history in general, and all these other things that just tied in together that you wouldn't know if you didn't do your research. I'm Vincent. I do a few things, I work with Ike with SOS Congo. They brought me in originally as an intern, and I was able to, just learn a few things and be able to be part of the community.
My name is Peter Chinda. I'm in grade 10 currently, going to grade 11 in September. I know about SOS Congo by someone at our church. Most people know him, Ike. And he introduced the program as a drumming program for youth to go to so we can learn how to play drums.
At one point, I pitched the idea to Ike to start a basketball program just for the youth and my friends in general, because we all always wanted some Black community or something to play ball with, right? So then we were able to get that started, and started with maybe 10 people. It grew to 50, and we were able to get a better place and have a lot of people come out, not even just Black people, people from all different type of communities. It's given me a community, a sense of being, having people that are like you and have been through the same situations as you. It's super cool to have.
Being part of the SOS Congo program has added to my life in the way that I was able to learn different skills in terms of social media and marketing, and being that I do hair and I do own a business, it kind of helped me learn some things that I can incorporate, and things that even I can bring over and collaborate with them.
The thing I love most about SOS Congo is I feel like we're families. I really feel like it's a camaraderie. We all help each other out, and during the sessions, just having that bond, talking about something that we have in common, it really pushes us together as a community, as we don't always feel like a community being Congolese. I feel like we need more of that. So yeah, I think it's great.
I think I just love that I get to use my skills and abilities to serve my community. I really enjoyed being a volunteer on the research team. I mean, a lot of people don't enjoy reading or, you know, doing research, but like that's my hobby. And I think it's nice that I get to use what I have, what God has given me to reach out and do as much as I can for the community.
How SOS or being part of SOS impacted my children, I would say that it brings the strong, my son specifically, okay, he have learned the leadership through SOS Congo, a sense of belonging in a community. Through SOS Congo, I've seen in him organization skills through SOS Congo, a discipline, okay, in which he knows already that, hey, I have to be there. It's a commitment as well through SOS Congo. This is not something that I've seen it with other programs, but I've seen him develop those skills through SOS Congo.
Well, a few things I learned about myself, to never be ashamed of what I could do and to keep on exploring. And I learned also a little bit of leadership while I was in the program of SOS Congo.
Now, a big round of applause for the leadership pedigree that these youth displayed. Congratulations, guys. This guy's for you. This night is for you, and your community is so proud of you. Thank you. The youth graduating from the program and doing something with the knowledge that they kind of were imparted with was probably one of the prouder moments. And just the fact that after, is it 8 years now we've been around? 2014 we were registered. So we're going into our 9th year now, right now. So I think the fact that we've been around for that long, somehow, some way still are serving the community despite the ups and downs that we face, I think that in and of itself is an achievement.
We're building something where we could actually impact and make changes in our community, and like even eventually like bring ideas up for like, you know, the city of Calgary in general. Like it would be pretty cool that we could actually have an impact in general.
There's so many things that we can be proud of, but what people take for granted is that we were growing up at the same time as SOS Congo was growing up. That means when we came together, we weren't married, we did not have kids, we were starting off in our careers, most of us. So I'm proud that we're still standing, first and foremost. As founders, as SOS Congo, we are still standing. Our reach is out there. People know about us. And most importantly, we've supported each other.
January 28th, 1993.
Anything, worst come to worst, at least pray for these people, because there is a big need. Kinshasa no longer exists. It's not a city anymore. Soon, at this rate, it looks like it's going to wind up a village.
That's the day that violence completely broke out in the city of Kinshasa, where I was living. There was shooting, violence, and it was completely crazy because it was the security forces largely carrying out these atrocities. I was barricaded in the dark in my house with my family, and we were all scared. Halfway across the world, January 28th, 1993 was also Ashley's 5th birthday. That day, she remembers being surrounded by her family, but getting so many presents that she got tired of opening them. We were the same, but with completely different experiences. So we're here at a field right now. If you can see a forest a little bit further away over there, and a sign on that forest. So the river we saw before ends right there in that forest there. So it's kind of long. If you see the trees going here shows the line where it's fertile, where the river runs. And then where it ends is right at that stop right there.
Alors, quand les esclaves étaient là-bas.
So the slaves were right there.
Son coin, il y avait des magasins sous ces arbres-là.
So everyone had a place to keep the slaves over there.
Et quand vous avez acheté, vous reprenez le bateau jusqu'à la mer.
So when you bought the slaves, you would take the ship and go back to the ocean from all the way up here.
My first moments in Congo were a little bit crazy and wild. I think, being at the airport was quite a shock. My first experience there, just because there's a lot of begging that happens at the airport, very aggressive begging. So I was a little bit thrown off by that in my first moments, but that was like really it. And then after that, everything was calm. And it was really, really a good trip.
We're over here at the Atlantic Ocean, something ridiculously beautiful. Look at that. But for us here, me being from Congo, Ashley being African American, it honestly, I think the young people think it hits different. Eh? It hits different. When you recognize that this is the last thing that some people might have seen before they went over, and you see the connection between the people, or the connections we haven't really explored deeply. When you look at the ocean, the beauty is almost secondary. It's the story that really stands out to you. So that's what we're trying to appreciate right now.
It was really emotional on so many different levels, because just being in Congo too, something that I really noticed that was palpable is that, I'm different. Like, I've been socialized in Canada. I'm different than the culture is different. But we're a lot more the same than we are different. And that's something that really became clear to me when I was there too. Like, I didn't really stand out. I mean, when I talked, people knew I was not from there. But I didn't really stand out otherwise. And I think just having that experience of saying, I actually am from here, or actually my people were actually taken from here. And they had lives before, and they were, taken against their will and went through horrendous things that, brought me to where I am today. So it was a lot to take in. It was just really powerful. I don't know how to explain it. Like, looking at the ocean and just seeing like, okay, yeah, my people were taken from this side of the ocean to the other side. And it was just really emotional. It was really a lot.
During the end of our project, though, or in and around there were more changes happening in the world. There was the war that started in Ukraine, and also a war that sparked back up in Eastern Congo. The world rightly responded to the war in Ukraine by focusing on the people. But our youth felt like we had been completely forgotten. We wanted to advocate for ourselves. We agreed to still honor our people, honor our deaths. When we stay here, Black Lives Matter. That should include Congolese people. When the Me Too movement happened here, we should speak about the crimes against women that happen in our land. So we marched, we had community discussions, we contacted our members of parliament, and finally, we collaborated with other associations. Once they heard about what we were doing here in Calgary, there was a team from Ottawa that wanted to continue to do this work, but on a national level. We scheduled to have an event that was going to center the war in Eastern Congo, center the victims, and we were going to propose solutions. That particular event was attended by the Honorable Greg Fergus, who also spoke.
Qui m'ont vraiment accueilli en tant qu'élu, en tant que nouvelle époque en 2015. Certainement, ma chère amie Toumi, la collaboratrice de longue date, mais mon ami Justin, que je connais aussi depuis un bon.
A few months after our event, Greg Fergus, or the Honorable Greg Fergus, became the first Black Speaker of the House in Canada. That was a big achievement for the Honorable Greg Fergus and also for our group. We felt like our messaging was getting out there.
If I could change the time, what would I change? Would I let go? Would I take it slow? If I could change my mind, what would I change? As the river flows and erases everything I've come to know. Little elephant tied to a rope, hanging on to all his hope. Seasons change and days go by, dreams like colors in the sky. Little elephant tied to a chain.
My hopes and dreams for SOS Congo is that SOS Congo becomes a source of inspiration for youth. I hope that we're able to expand to multiple cities and youth, or anybody with a heart to contribute, with a heart to bring something back to the storehouse, can see this and take it further, can see it and help it grow, can see it so that the narrative and everything that I grew up hearing about my own people, I really wish that when my kids are in their formative years and they're going to college, I hope that we'll be talking about Congolese and our achievements in a completely different way.
To just keep expanding. I mean, we've been here for years now. Keep expanding and eventually, you know, have the younger generation take over for us and have SOS Congo keep expanding. If it's to expand outside of Alberta, expand Canada-wide, that's really what I want us I want us to get, and you know, just really helping our community.
Congolese Community Center in the city of Calgary, where people can gather, where people can have their meetings, where youth can have their programs, where we can have sports, where we can have recreation. I think that's the main goal that we're still plugging, we're still working towards. And I think if we get that, then, I think we'll feel very accomplished as a group.
My message to really the Congolese community and really in Alberta or throughout Canada is really to embrace working together. We have a lot of great events coming, and we've had great events, and really to come and experience our event, experience our culture, and that really applies to all different cultures. One of the greatest events that I experienced in Winnipeg is something called Folklorama, where you get to experience different cultures. And really, the thing with Congolese culture is we're welcoming to all, and we really want people to embrace and come together through our events, through our youth programs as well. But ultimately it's to work together.
Though I am of interracial background, I am proud to be Congolese. I will remind those around me almost constantly when I am hanging out with my friends and my peers, and I plan and intend to ensure that I support my co-founders in instilling that pride in my nieces and nephews. And I would hope in return that they would help me instill that same pride in my future children, so that together we can say we truly impacted and influenced the future generation of Congo in Canada.
Et si j'ai un mot à dire aux Congolais qui sont au Canada ou partout en Europe, nous sommes tous des Congolais. Je sais qu'il y a une grande diversité au Congo. Nous constituons 144 tribus au Congo. Donc toute la diversité se trouve en Europe. Mais les plus grands 4 groupes que nous connaissons, ce sont les Chiluba, les Bakongo, les Bashwaili et les Bangala. Nous devons travailler ensemble. Nous devons abolir le tribalisme.
It feels like Congolese worldwide have a different mentality now and are willing to speak up and speak their truth regardless of what comes back. We're in a space now where we're building on our community. We're building our leadership capacity. We're building on relationships and our strength. Community is our biggest resource. Ours, really, it's coming back right now. We have a new small center where we plan to continue to do the work we started 9 years ago this year. Wow. We hope that our story inspires others. We want to build bigger. We want to be active in multiple cities in Canada and also do work in Congo. We're looking for allies. Right now, the United States government and the European Union have both sanctioned the Rwandan regime for their activities in Eastern Congo. Even Rwandans are starting to ask themselves what their government is doing in Eastern Congo. Sadly, still no word from the Canadian government. To Congolese people, though, we should not let this discourage us. This is about our dignity and our respect. We cannot move forward with peace if there isn't a truth and reconciliation process. But nobody will respect us before we respect ourselves. It's time for us to look towards the future generations and think about the legacy that we're leaving behind for them.
She's extraordinary. He's extraordinary. Extraordinary.
supangia Simba simbe simba ngolo pangi Simba simbe simba ngolo pangi Simba simbe simba ngolo pangi Simba yesu pangia Ale simba yesu kundia Simba yesu edifenuka Simba yesu edifenuka Simba yesu kundia Udianga bunanga mwakikundi ndulanga Bibio sobi uvidi mwakisala bena salam Bibio sobi uvidi mwakisala bena salam Ya ukundi tata